Hey everybody, my name is Ellie. Welcome to my reading and writing channel. So today is a celebration of libraries. So shocker for you, I was an incredibly anxious child who grew up to be an incredibly anxious adult because continuity. So in order to deal with this, I've always had what I call safe places, and these can be big, they can be small, it can be a spot in the park, a theatre seat, anywhere by the sea, especially Cornwall, and they are places that I visit. I mean, physically is best, but I return to them in my mind when I'm feeling particularly anxious. However, the place I've always returned to, no matter where I am in the world, is the library. So my biggest hurdle as an 11-year-old was moving from my idyllic little village primary school to a two-sided, imposing secondary school, and I was absolutely petrified, and I remained pretty much petrified for the next 7 years. And I remember having the initial tour, and obviously my first port of call was the library. Now my primary school, as I said, was very idyllic, and it was basically like one big library. There were book cabinets everywhere, and bean bags ran along the corridors and spilling into the classrooms. And now at secondary school, my safety net would be one room, and I was so grateful for it. It was just away from the stress of the classroom and everyday teen life. We all know that kind of angst, and it was so comforting for me to know that there was a safe place for me to escape to, away from the school climate, which could be so toxic. The library is more than a place that people go to read. It's more than a place even where books are stored. It's a hub of inspiration and creativity. I think they're still that safe port. I know they are for me growing up. But schools now, a lot of schools, they offer clubs and activities and chances for new friendships to form. And for me, having worked in schools, I would go as far to say as it is the most important and vital room in the school, bar none. Even the uni library and university libraries are so associated with stress, obviously, deadlines, etc. But for me, it was still that safe place, and especially as it was open 24 hours a day. It was just a dream. One of the last schools I worked at, the librarian was extraordinary. And people need to remember that librarians are not, the shushing, stern stereotypes. This librarian in particular, she took the book experience off the page and made it accessible for everyone, even those who had, an initial loathing of books. She organised clubs and she had trips out, and she also had this incredible thing that she did twice a week called Drop Everything and Read, or DEAR. Now, DEAR as a staff member was such a gift. A couple of times a week, we would literally do that, drop everything, whatever we were doing in class, whichever lesson it was, and just read. They were treasured moments of the week, just rare moments of calm. A dream for staff and students, alike in terms of mental health, just that moment where you could escape somewhere else. And the librarian and the literacy teacher and the English department were also incredible at doing their utmost to make sure DEAR was a pleasurable experience for all students. Because obviously, reading is not easy for some people. So there were reading tests, which sounds scary, but they weren't. They were brilliant for every single student. So it meant the library was absolutely stocked with books of every genre for every ability. It wasn't a one-size-fits-all scenario, which you see sadly now in schools, in some schools. Every child was considered and mattered, and therefore they had the best chance to succeed in their reading and even hopefully fall in love with it. But in researching this, libraries and librarians were not always held in such high regard. And to a point, I blame the media. So this Christmas, have a rewatch of It's a Wonderful Life. Now, disclaimer, I adore this film. It is one of my favourite films of all time. It's absolutely, well, wonderful, but it's, you know, it's life affirming. So if you haven't watched it, please do not be put off by this little bit that drives me mad every single Christmas Eve. So even if you haven't watched It's a Wonderful Life, I'm presuming because of all the kind of, you know, Simpsons episodes and stuff which parody it, George Bailey, the protagonist, is given the chance to see an alternative reality in which he'd never been born. So George, in this one of these scenes, I mean, it's mostly very poignant, but in one scene, George discovers the horrific truth of his wife's fate in a world without him. And you cut to Jimmy, the brilliant Jimmy Stewart, you cut to his absolutely disbelieving, horrified face, like this slow kind of shock face, that she has become a librarian. And she also has glasses on, which she didn't before, so apparently, without knowing George, she, just has bad eyesight. Now, aside from the fact we're supposed to feel badly for this woman with her own career, and one she seems to love because she's opening the library on Christmas Eve, I mean, dedication. It's just really sad that the most depressing, bland job they could come up with as a juxtaposition of, you know, the light that George brings was a librarian. You know, maybe there's an alternative ending somewhere where Mary's still a librarian whilst being a wife and mother, because it's possible. Attitudes change, thankfully, over the decades. There's in the 70s, there was a TV show called Happy Days, which I love. And just as a side note, why can't we stream Happy Days in the UK? Please, it's such a happy show. I need it in my life. Anyway, Happy Days was massive in the 70s, huge show. It had one of the most iconic characters of all time, which who was the Fonz, or Arthur Fonzarelli. And he was like the coolest guy that there ever was and ever will be. And he was like a rebel with a heart of gold. So in one episode, he goes to the library. I can't remember why, but he then says, kind of breaks the fourth wall, and is like, everybody's allowed to read. And according to a rumour, registration for library cards went up 500%. And now TV series go on to encourage reading. I remember in the 90s, those bookmarks they used to give out with The Simpsons on, saying Read Man. They seem to be everywhere. And then you've got the likes of Gilmore Girls, you know, book-loving Rory. And it's good that young people can now embrace their love of reading rather than hiding away and it being kind of like this shameful thing, like a bookworm's like a negative loner type figure. And then you have like mini libraries, or that they just make me so happy in towns and villages, usually from, you know, defunct telephone boxes. You've got like mini little libraries, and they're just absolutely adorable. I love them. I've got a few videos up on my channel of them. It's nothing makes me happier than when I come across one of them. So share with me some of your favourite libraries. I'd love to see them. Recommend some to me. One of my favourites is Liverpool Central Library. I grew up. That's a lie. I didn't grow up there. I was a student in Liverpool, so I guess I kind of grew up there. But I lived in Liverpool for 5 years, and Liverpool Central Library is just absolutely fabulous. I've got a video as well, like a bit of a mini tour around there. It's stunning. So that's one of my favourites. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Let me know in the comments about books, anything reading really. And thank you to all the schools who are embracing libraries. They are so important. Okay guys, take care. Bye.